USS Patuxent AO 44 was a Kennebec-class oiler in the United States Navy during World War II. She was the second U.S. Navy ship named for the Patuxent River in Maryland. The Type T2, a tanker, was laid down under Maritime Commission Contract NC Hull 159 on March 5, 1942 as SSMK by the Sun Shipbuilding Dry Dock Co. Hull No. 228 at Chester, Pennsylvania, for the Keystone Code. She was launched on July 25, 1942, sponsored by Mrs. W. H. Blanchard, acquired by the Navy from the Maritime Commission on September 28, 1942, converted by the Maryland Dry Dock Company, Baltimore, Maryland, and commissioned on October 22, 1942, Commander Burton Davis in command. Service history: 1942-1944. On November 12, 1942, Patuxent reported to the U.S. Naval Base, Norfolk, Virginia, for duty. On December 17 she sailed for Callao in the Dutch West Indies and on December 27 transited the Panama Canal. Steaming across the Pacific, she operated with Task Group 62.9 during February 1943 in the capture and defense of Guadalcanal. During this campaign she supplied aviation gasoline to the Guadalcanal airstrips. She next sailed for the United States via the Fiji Islands, arriving San Pedro, California, on March 6. Following overhaul, she again departed for South Pacific. During the ensuing months, Patuxent fueled ships in airfields during consolidation operations in the Southern Solomons. From July 10 to November 20, she made runs between Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides, and Guadalcanal in Florida Islands, with 2 cruises to Numa, New Caledonia. During these runs she fueled the fleet in Purvis Bay and Tulagi Harbor, Florida Island, and pumped aviation gasoline to Henderson Field and other fighter strips on Guadalcanal. She departed Numa on November 20 and carried gasoline to Wellington, New Zealand. Patuxent next made fueling runs which lasted throughout the month of December. On December 30 she got underway from Purvis Bay for her first rendezvous with major ships of the fleet for fueling at-sea operations. Supporting strikes off Cape Eating, New Ireland on December 31, 1943 to January 1, 1944, she fueled 2 carriers and 3 destroyers. She sailed to Espiritu Santo on January 10, 1944 and steamed between Guadalcanal and the New Hebrides until March 9. On April 8, 1944, Patuxent proceeded to her second refueling at-sea rendezvous. She then returned via Purvis Bay to the States, reaching San Pedro, California on May 10, 1944 for overhaul. Departing the West Coast on June 19, she joined the Logistics Support Group in the Marianas Campaign supporting the occupation of Saipan. She returned to Eniwetok on August 8 and joined a large group of fleet oilers, cargo ships, chugs, escorts and, 12 days later, sortied from Eniwetok for maneuvers, proceeding to Manus Island in the Admiralty Islands group. Departing Manus on September 6, Patuxent steamed with the Logistics Support Group for the Palau Island Campaign. After a week fueling at sea, she returned to Seattler Harbor. On the 18th she returned to the Palau area, fueled, and headed to rendezvous east of the Philippine Islands to fuel the fast carrier task force striking there on 924 September. She returned to Seattler Harbor on October 8. On October 13 she followed the Philippine invading forces out of Seattler Harbor and proceeded to the Philippine area once more, participating in the logistic support operations off the East Coast. Patuxent was with the task group off Luzon when the Japanese sent their fleet to wipe out the Leyte beachhead. Orders arrived to head east at flank speed. The task group raced to the Western Carolines, arriving at Ulithi on October 30, Patuxent's home port for the next 10 months. Returning to the Philippine area again November 2, she operated with the Logistics Support Group. Typhoon Cobra hit the fueling area on December 18, sent 3 destroyers to the bottom and badly damaged several other ships. Although handicapped with a damaged boom, Patuxent fueled the storm-battered ships and then set course for Ulithi. 1945-1946. Patuxent departed Ulithi on January 7, 1945. She joined the Fast Carrier Task Group, then preparing for a sortie into the South China Sea. During this period the fleet struck the China coast and Formosa, and also supported operations at Lingayen Gulf, Luzon. Under the cover of night, the oilers entered the South China Sea and fueled the Third Fleet. Japanese Army camps were in sight on the shore, and unidentified aircraft passed overhead during the night. This cruise into the South China Sea ended Patuxent's part in the recapture and liberation of the Philippine Islands. Patuxent departed Ulithi on February 8 for the Volcano Islands area in the Iwo Jima campaign. The task group swung southwest to stand by while the combat ships went in to support the beachheads. After an explosion and fire forward, Patuxent steamed to Saipan for repairs, arriving on February 19, 1945, then steamed to Ulithi. Departing there on March 22, she rejoined her task group in the logistics support of the fleet for the Okinawa invasion. In the next 2 months, Patuxent made 4 voyages from Ulithi to fueling areas off Okinawa. After Okinawa had been secured, Patuxent steamed to the Philippines, arriving at San Pedro Bay on June 14, before joining the logistic group of the 3rd Fleet at Ulithi the 24th. Patuxent supported strikes against Japan from July 10 until August 5. After replenishing at Ulithi, the oiler was steaming to rejoin the support group off Hunch when the news of Japan's capitulation reached the ship. On September 4, 2 days after the formal surrender ceremony there, she steamed into Tokyo Bay with the occupation forces. On September 16 she headed home via Eniwetok, arrived at San Francisco on October 24 and reported for inactivation to the commandant of the 12th Naval District. On January 18, 1946, she was moved to the Grand Shipyards, Oakland, and decommissioned there on February 21, 1946. She was struck from the Navy list on March 12, 1946, and transferred to the War Shipping Administration for disposal on July 1, 1946. She was subsequently sold to the Pure Oil Co., Chicago, Illinois, and operated out of Baltimore as SS David D. Irwin. Awards. Patuxent received 8 battle stars for World War II service.